Okay, what we're going to talk about tonight is the courtroom list. And what you're looking at here on my main screen is a job in the courtroom list. So it looks exactly like real time when you're in real time from the courtroom list. There really is one primary difference, and that is that courtroom list allows you to take down multiple jobs and then bust out only certain jobs if you want them transcribed. For those of you who don't work in court or don't have any experience in court work, there are times when officials do trials, and the trial may go all day, may go several days. There's another situation where on Mondays, they drag in every Monday morning the people that have been put in jail for DUIs, and they will literally do what I like to call cattle call, where a person's case is called, they ask how they plead, they set their bail, they remand them, or they send them home. And so it's very rare in those occasions that a transcript will be called for that 5-minute case, but it can happen. And so there is no time in this situation where you can go out and create a new job and come back in. There's just not time for that. And so the courtroom list facilitates you saying something that will tell SpeechCAT that this is a different job, or you want to be able to break out only one section. So for instance, a court reporter with a lot of experience, like Becky, for instance, who's with us tonight, who works in court, would know when something happens that there might be an expert testimony, and she notices that this expert testimony they will probably want that transcribed, and they'll probably want it rushed because they're going to need it when they cross-examine this other witness. And so she can, every time you say, I say Shazam, that writes my new job begins, which is up here all the way at the top. It says new job begins, :00:00:00:00. Now, as I move through the document, I just did a few dictations from different audio files so that I could show you. And see, here is another new case begins, only this one has the time of 5 minutes and 12 seconds, which means that at 5 minutes and 12 seconds, I said Shazam, and this begins a new dictation completely. I'm going to scroll down again. And here again is another new job that began at 10 minutes and 22 seconds. And this could go on and on all day long. You could have 14 jobs or more. There is no limit to the number of jobs that you can create. And this is where I stopped when it was time for the meeting to start. And so I'm going to, well, before I go out, I just want to show you that if you say your marker for new case and you do not get new job begins, you can put your cursor where you want the new job to begin and hold down the Alt key, hit the R, and hit the N. And that will insert new job begins. I normally just delete any spaces that are after it, and I'll show you why. So now I'm going to exit this job. I save my voice data because I like to do correction. Here we are at the courtroom list. And what you can see is this is the job, and this is the bust out button. So I'm going to click on bust out. And what you're seeing here is what we call the bust out window. And I'll draw your attention to the top of the window here. where you can see the time that each job started and which ones can be busted out. So you can also see the first line. Well, actually, this is like the first 3 lines because there's a Q, an A, and a Q, and those are all on lines by themselves. Normally, in a real situation, they normally would say the court calls case number, blah, 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 blah. And so you'll normally see the case number and the name of the defendant in your first line here, which will help you as well to pick out that one that you're busting out. I'm going to go ahead and bust out this second one here, and I'll draw your attention now to the bottom of the screen. Extra seconds of wave audio, seconds. So it's asking you, do you want, how many seconds before and after do you want SpeechCAT to grab of that audio? And this is in seconds. So I'm talking about 5 seconds before and 5 seconds after. So I'll click on bust out. And what's going to happen is it will open up the new job screen so that you can fill out information about this specific job. So you can change the speakers if you need. You can add untranslates if you need. You can fill out this information. You don't have to fill it out right now, but you will have to fill it out prior to inserting your cover pages. So I'm just going to click on scope here, and it's going to take my busted out, and I can still scope it if I can still load the speech engine if I'd like to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and click on OK. And here is the second job that I did today. And so now I can proceed with scoping the job. I can just put my cursor right here at the beginning. I'm going to wait until the voice data finishes loading. Voice data has loaded. I can click on you, the first word, and right click.
Where are your medical? ACO, I graduated Harvard University in 1975. I attended Emory University Medical School until 1978. Did postgraduate training at Duke University. Completed a sports medical fellowship at the University of Ohio. I've been practicing here at Peachtree Orthopedic Clinic since 1983. Cuba, would you describe for the jury what specialization is involved? ACO orthopedic surgeons render treatment to the musculoskeletal joint.
So you would scope as you normally would, using all your hotkeys, selecting the right conflicts if you're using conflicts. And then when you're done with that, you would probably want to delete the new job begins. And then you would want to go to job, finalize. Now remember, I did not fill out my new job screen, so it's not going to be completed. See, the name of the court reporter isn't here because I didn't fill it in. And the date of the certification is not here, nor is her certificate number. But we're just going to pretend that it is here. And you can see that I've left some things in here that allow the reporter to more easily create their index. And this jumped up, so I'll push that down. And then once everything is correct here, we would save, and then we would click on job and present. Because this job is going to Microsoft Word, that's what we're going to see it in. When it asks you open job with media controller, if you leave the check in there, then what's going to happen is you're actually going to open the audio so that you can listen to it again. We don't need to do that, so I'm just going to click on OK. Okay, so here is my transcript in Microsoft Word with the index. And then you just make sure it all looks right. And this is for court, so it's 32 lines per page, which is what court reporters in Louisiana must have. And then I'm going to turn on my show hide, which is up here, looks like a paragraph mark. That allows me to see the page breaks. It allows me also to see any section breaks, like there's a section break right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring that section break up. That way it truly separates this page from the certificate page. And sometimes there are little things that I might need to push over there just to make sure everything looks right. And there you go, you're ready to print. Now, if you need to create a PDF document, because you can print it out here if you want to, but if you need to create a PDF document, Word now has a PDFer, and you can actually select Microsoft Print to PDF and then just hit print. And then what's going to happen is it'll open up a dialog saying, okay, well, where do you want to save this? And normally I would go to my C drive and documents, and I would probably create a folder for completed jobs in PDF. Double hit enter twice. That will get you in there. And then I would just say courtroom job for now. And hit save. And it will create the PDF and save it in that folder. Now, once you are done here, you would just hit save in Word and you would exit. That would bring you back to the main menu. And from the main menu, what we can do is click on File, Generate ASCII File. Now remember, this is a court document, so it's got 32 lines instead of 25 or 24. I want SpeechCAT to take the finalized document from Word, not from Scope. If I have if I have any single spacing in my document at all, then I want to use this box here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the File Explorer real quick. Bring it on over here so you can see it. And I'm going to go to my documents, completed jobs in PDF, and I can open it up and check if I'm not sure of whether or not there are single spaced. Okay, so here's my document. And so far, there's nothing single spaced. But the index is single spaced. So I have 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages. I have 3 pages before the proceeding. And I have 1 page after. And this is usually single spaced. So I'm going to close it now. And I will go to single space, 3 before, 1 after. And I am going to use fake line numbering on single space pages so that it looks good. And I think I am ready to, and you can see that it's automatically going to go to see ASCII files job, and then my name, the name for the job taken in courtroom. I'll just click on create. And you'll see the status down here. So you'll see what's happening as it's happening. and you see finished writing ASCII text file. So I'm going to view it. Still got my 32 lines per page, which is what I need. And I can still dink with it a little bit in here if I need to. You know, oh, I just realized I didn't see the date, so I can still type that in. And then I can save it, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to close out of the generate ASCII. And then I want to show you one other thing that I like to do. Anytime I create any additional files, like a PDF or an ASCII, I want to assure that those files are also a part of my job. So I'm going to click on import, and I'm going to acquire the files for the job. So one of my job files was on C, ASCII files. And see down here, it's looking for sound files. So if I do all files, I can then see there's my job taken in the courtroom list, and I can open it and it'll attach it. I can also acquire another file, and this time I'm going to go to documents and completed jobs in PDF. And there it is. And I'm going to open that. It tells me it's got it. I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to close the window. And now we're going to go to View, Show Files, so that you can see that these files have been attached. See other acquired file. Here's the job taken in courtroom. If you stretch it out, you can see that it's a text file. That is your ASCII. And here, your courtroom job in PDF is also here. So now everything is attached to the job, so that in the future, if somebody calls for that job, it's easy for you to go and look for whatever you need because it's attached all to the same job. When my job is done, then I want to move it to the History tab. So I'm going to click on Move to History. It thinks that the job hasn't been selected, so I'm going to click on this little black arrow to make sure it is selected, even though it already looked selected. And I'm going to click on Move to History, and it's going to say, do you want to move this job to History? These jobs will be closed out. I'm going to say yes, and poof, it's gone. If I go to the History list, I can see it right there. And then from there, I normally am going to archive the job. And so if I wanted to do that, I would click on Job Archive. And when you do a job archive as opposed to an audio archive, a job archive moves everything. It moves the audio, the text, the ASCII, the PDF. It moves everything over to your, let's say, external drive, or if it's a network or a CD or a DVD, it moves it wherever you tell it to move it. And speaking of that, you have to tell it where do you want this? What's the destination? So I'm going to browse, and I'm going to go to my external hard drive, and I'm going to create a new folder called Adria's completed work. Hit enter twice. And so you see up here it says Adria's completed work. That's where it's going to go to. Now, in order to say this is what I want going, you select what it is that you want. So maybe, and you can see that over here, if you scroll over, you can see the record time, you can see the total size of the files, whether it was compressed or not. And the jobs that show up are only jobs that have not yet been archived. So generally, I'm going to just select all of the jobs that I have moved to history. And you have an option here. You can click on copy. When you click on copy, it makes literally a copy. So a lot of courts want their court reporters to start turning in CDs. And so they'll say, I want a CD for every day that you do court. Well, you can create the CD first if you like by using the copy feature. And then you would make your archival copy, which you would put on an external hard drive or a CD or DVD for yourself, or a network drive, or even Dropbox, or some other, cloud-based storage option. So when you click on archive, what you're saying is, yes, I want you to copy these jobs to the directory I specified, and then I want you to delete it off the hard drive. Now, it's not going to delete the link to the job. It's just going to delete the text and audio from your hard drive to preserve space. So it tells me now that the archive is complete. What you want to make note of is this set name, which, by the way, you could have changed before we hit archive, but I just normally let it go with the date. And you want to make sure that you know where you put this set name, because when you go to access any of these jobs, it's going to say, please load set name, and it's going to present this to you. So you need to know where that went. So you need to either keep a journal about where you're putting stuff, or a spreadsheet, especially if it's on an external hard drive. When we would burn to DVD or CD, we could actually write on the DVD or the CD itself the set name. You can do that on your external hard drive, but you'll be able to fit many set names on the external hard drive. So I suggest that you create an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document that lists your set names and what external hard drive they are on. As time goes on, you will have multiple external hard drives. Even with a 4 terabyte drive, eventually you will fill it up if you are an official. So now I'm going to go ahead and close. And what you can see now over here under Job Archived is that all these jobs have been archived now. So if you went to Job Archive again, there would be nothing in the list, because everything in history has already been archived. And so that is the process that we go through with the courtroom list. One other thing I want to draw your attention to on the courtroom list is the audio archive feature. The reason that there is an audio archive feature in the courtroom list is because officials take down and take down and take down and take down, and they don't always get those cases called for transcript. And so they're just building up massive amounts of audio on their computer because they're taking down so much all of the time. And so they may not want to job archive because they want the text still on the computer. They want the job still on the computer in case it gets called. But they can't fit all the audio. It just won't fit after a while. And so audio archive allows the official to archive just the audio off to an external drive or cloud, so that they can free up space on their hard drive. And that's pretty important. Another thing that you can do is you can compress the audio file. So let's look over here. Okay, this third one is 43 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and compress that one. So if I click on the job where the little, in these little gray boxes here, so that the black arrow is pointing to it and so that it is highlighted in blue, and I click on File, Compress Job, it's going to compress. And it changes it from a WAV file to an MP3 file. And as you can see, you're seeing the status as it happens. See, it says room mic 1 and voice backup track. So when you do that, it compresses both of the jobs, but you can still listen to this audio. I'm going to click on View and Show Files, and I'm going to come down here to the sound portion, and I'm going to spread it out so you can see that these are the MP3 files. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight it and open the sound file so you can hear it.
With our overhelp, our overprotection and overdirection and holds it, you college went to a content and you would be shocked.
Listen to my room.
Kids, don't just join a club, start a club, because colleges want to see that. And check the box for community service. I mean, show the colleges you care about others. And all of this is done to some hope.
Okay, so it seemed to slow down my voice backup track, but did not slow down the room at all, so that's good. So now that you know that you can hear both of your audio files, you can feel good about it, close the document, the show files window, and you're good. So that is the primary difference between scope and between current and courtroom. However, another thing that I need you to notice is that there is no scope file here. There's no scope button because you can't scope from the courtroom list. You have to bust it out. Now, if you want everything in the same document, when you go to bust out, you can just hit select all and then bust it out, and it'll take the whole thing then. One thing that I said earlier that I touched on is that an experienced court reporter, or so I've been told by experienced court reporters, is that oftentimes an experienced court reporter will see it coming a mile away when the attorney is going to want to have a section of testimony transcribed. And if you just simply go into the file, I'm gonna just click on, I'm gonna put courtroom 2 here and click on scope, and I can allow it to load the engine if I want to. And so here's the job. And if I wanted to go in after the fact, and let's say that the attorney said, I need from 10:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., I need that transcribed, please. Well, all the reporter would have to do is go and find the time and put a new job begins, a new case macro is what we call it, at that portion, and then another one where you want it to stop and you can bust out just that section to transcribe. It's important to know that no matter how you bust out, always, 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 you are just getting a copy of the job. The job is still remaining the same in the courtroom list. And that's really important to know, especially if you're going to have to bust out more of them to come. It's important to know that it's only making a copy of what you're pulling out. Even when you do select all, this is still just another copy of the actual takedown in the courtroom list. And then you'd scope it as normal, of course. So that is the courtroom list. I am going to unmute you and open the floor for questions. Hi.
Hi. How did you get the jobs to show up in the courtroom list?
Okay, that's a good question. You see up here where it says current, history, and courtroom in the gray bar?
Mm-hmm.
So if you click on courtroom list, it actually is a different tab. And so when you want something to show in the courtroom list, you would create the job there. However, if you accidentally create the job in courtroom, it's all right. You can highlight the job and click on File, Move to Courtroom.
Okay.
And that would put the job in the courtroom list for you.
Okay.
And the same is true if you start a job in the courtroom list and you really meant to make it in the current list, you would again highlight the job, click on File, and move to Current.
Okay.
That was a good question. Thank you.
Okay.
Adria, if we are doing a deposition, where would we normally take that?
I think that depositions are mostly taken in the current list.
Okay.
Because the only thing that would make it make me use the courtroom list in a deposition situation was I actually had a court reporter call me and say, okay, so this attorney called me and she's a freelancer. And she said, so he wants me to do 4 depositions today, one after the other. And he's planning on literally having them come in, one, do the job, the next one, without stopping except for lunch. So how do I do that? Because it sounds like we're not going to have time for me to close out the job, start a new job. I said, no problem. Just do it from courtroom list. You have access to all the same styles. You know, it's not a problem. The only difference is you have to make sure that you have your new case marker selected and trained. I'm sorry, not selected, but trained in your vocabulary and trained. And it is, I'm going to go ahead and go into the scratch pad just to show you the new case markers. They're listed. If you insert the basic marker file, it's listed usually 3 times. And I think once we call it case co, and I think we might call it, I know Shazam is in there, and maybe new case, the word new case. You can call it whatever you want as long as it works consistently, because that is what you want really for all of your markers. You want them to work every time consistently, no matter if you are a court reporter, a captioner, a broadcast captioner. Your markers need to be working every single time.